special guest today, our FEMA Administrator, Deanne Criswell, and she's going to give a brief update to all of you at the top on all of the important work the FEMA is doing to help us fight the pandemic. She'll take a few questions, and then we'll proceed with the briefing from there. I know it's going to be a short one today, but we'll try to get around to as many people as possible. With that, I will turn it over.
All right, thank you. All right, good afternoon, everybody, or good morning still. Yesterday, Secretary Austin and I were able to brief the President on the tremendous work that's being done to support our hospitals right now. At FEMA, we've been part of this COVID mission since day one, beginning with supporting jurisdictions with medical personnel, acquiring and shipping personal protective equipment, medical equipment, opening testing sites, and deploying federal resources in support of our state, local, territorial, and tribal members. As we approach the one-year anniversary of opening our first community vaccination center in California, just one of the thousands we supported across the country, FEMA and our over 20,000 strong workforce continues to meet the ongoing requirements of the pandemic. Our support to our partners hasn't stopped and will not stop until this pandemic is over. We know that the most critical need right now is medical staffing for our hospitals, and we've been working nonstop with the Departments of Defense and Health and Human Services, who have been on the grounds in communities since day one, to push even more medical teams out the door to communities who need it most. I've seen firsthand the impacts of these teams on their continued heroic efforts. During my time as commissioner in New York City for emergency management, at the very beginning of this pandemic, I had the privilege of speaking with the chief nursing officer at Elmhurst Hospital, which was at the time the epicenter of the epicenter in those very early days, and listened to her address the Department of Defense medical team as they were concluding their mission at their hospital. She said, with tears in her eyes, "You were the miracle we needed when we needed it most." DoD continues to deliver on those miracles every day as they stand shoulder to shoulder with the heroes working on the front line in your communities. Yesterday, I spoke with Governors Whitmer and DeWine, who both said separately that these teams, in addition to adding more clinical capacity, are a morale boost to the doctors, the nurses, and the support staff in the hospitals that they're working in. And they have been working day and night to save lives. So now, DoD is deploying 6 additional teams to Ohio, Michigan, Rhode Island, New Jersey, New York, and New Mexico. We will also be deploying an additional HHS team to Rhode Island. And in the next several weeks, we are prepared to do more. These teams are in addition to more than 1,000 staff that are already deployed to 26 states, 2 territories, the District of Columbia, and 24 tribal nations. And since March of 2020, since the beginning of this pandemic, thousands of federal personnel have deployed all over our country. As critical as our doctors and nurses are, countless other professionals keep our hospitals running. Patient transporters, food workers, and cleaning staff are all at the heart of these healthcare facilities. And so for that reason, with the President's support, I am now directing an expansion of our FEMA policy to permit funding to states who elect to use their National Guard troops to fill these critical support roles in hospitals. During every disaster, FEMA's strength is our ability to coordinate with other stakeholders, federal, state, local, tribal, private, and nonprofit partners to identify gaps and meet needs. And this COVID mission has been no different. We meet with our DoD, HHS, and other federal partners daily to anticipate future needs and fill those requests. FEMA has also been supporting communities across the country through nearly $100 billion in funding for all types of COVID-related needs, including vaccination, safely opening and operating schools and other public facilities, and testing, thanks to an unprecedented commitment by this administration. This funding, combined with the extraordinary work of DoD, HHS, and our other federal partners, has enabled states and local communities to fight this pandemic, save lives, and protect families. This pandemic has shifted and changed through the Delta variant and now the Omicron variant, but our commitment and the commitment of the entire federal family has not changed. Together, we will continue to surge staff, push resources, and provide support using every tool that we have available to fight our fight against COVID-19. Thank you. I'll take a few questions.
All right. Lisa.
Thank you, and thank you for being here, Administrator. Manpower is one thing, but I know you've talked about in the past too, having to make sure they have somewhere to work and that there are hospital beds. So for these 6 particular states and hospitals that have been identified, are you building out capacity, adding more physical space for the teams to work?
In these specific states, these 6 states, we are just sending staff. That is the request that they had. Our regional administrators have been in constant communication with our state emergency management directors and state public health directors throughout this pandemic, and we have been conducting recently facility expansion assistance to all of the states. Right now, we've had a few states that have requested some assistance in helping to identify where they may be able to expand, but we've had no specific requests to expand hospital capacity outside of maybe setting up a tent outside of their emergency room to be able to support triage efforts.
Thank you. Alex? Oh.
But I do have a question. You know, this has been a year of unprecedented natural disasters as well as obviously a global pandemic that has no end in sight at this point. Are you largely relying on ARP funding, or are you hoping to get more funding from the administration going forward as we're looking at another year of ongoing challenges?
Yeah, the funding that FEMA uses is through our Disaster Relief Fund, and right now for all the requirements that we have on our plate, we have enough funding within that to meet all of those demands.
Jeremy?
Thank you, Administrator, for doing this. What kind of feedback were you getting from governors or hospitals that led to this decision and this added flexibility? And then secondly, I'm also wondering, you know, next week there's, I guess, 120 military members going as part of the 6-state deployment. That's out of the, I think, 1,000 military members that the President has said he would mobilize this coming month. So why are you only sending 120 right now at a time when there are, you know, nearly 24 states, I think, that have 85% plus ICU bed capacity? Are there not more requests coming in, or what are you waiting for to deploy the rest of that 1,000?
Yeah, great questions. And so on the first question, remind me the first question again real fast.
The feedback that you're getting from
Right.
governors and hospitals.
So again, my regional administrators, they've been communicating with our state directors daily. And one of the things that we have heard recently is, while we do need medical staffing, there's a lot of other functions within the hospital that need additional staffing, in particular because of the Omicron variant and how it's taking other staff within the hospital out. And so we've been able to expand our policy in order to make sure that we're providing whatever type of resources are available to keep those hospitals functioning. So an incredible step forward to make sure that they can keep moving. As far as where we're at with the deployment of personnel going out, the Department of Defense, through FEMA, we have been sending Department of Defense personnel out throughout this pandemic. We sent several teams out during the Delta surge, and we started to evaluate what we thought the impacts would be for the Omicron variant earlier in December. And that's where the initial announcement was made that we were going to send 1,000 additional personnel from the Department of Defense. As we get requests from our state partners for what they need, these are the requests that we have right now, and we're filling those based on when they can receive them.
Thank you for the question. So what's the point of now sending N95 or KN95 masks out to Americans if a lot of those masks are just single daily use? Like somebody wears it once, then what?
Masks save lives, I think, is the important thing here. And we want to make sure that everybody has the tools and resources that they need in order to protect themselves and their families.
Go ahead in the back.
Administrator, thank you so much for taking my question. I just want to ask you, is there any plan, you said your agency is willing to do more, but is there any plan to set up perhaps more of those mass testing sites, federally run testing sites or the vaccination sites to help stop the spread, but also get people tested? We know that the administration is planning to send out those rapid tests, but the PCR test, of course, is more accurate. So is there a plan to do more in some of those hard-hit states across the country?
Absolutely. So again, we're working with our states to identify what their needs are. You know, there's many parts of the country that have built up internal capacity across their states, but those areas that need that additional testing sites, we are available to set those up. We've been partnering with the Centers for Disease Control, and we are setting those up now, and we'll continue to do So, as the states need them and as they request them.
Brian is going to have the last one.
Thanks a lot, Administrator. When you came on in April and FEMA's had mass vaccination sites that it's rolled out, I think that one of the questions is right now the President just announced that they're going to triple a stockpile of PPE, get masks out to Americans, and also try to expand the testing capacity and home test kits. Did FEMA weight too much of its resources toward vaccinations, or should it have also been surging that capacity months ago in testing and PPE?
FEMA's role has always been to support our hospitals, our schools, and our public service agencies. We have been supporting them through the delivery and reimbursement for PPE, for the medical staff that we're sending out. That has not changed, and that support will continue. The additional support that's coming out for the general population is something that FEMA does not participate in, and those are the issues or the items that you're hearing are going to be announced and available to the general public later.
When it comes to testing sites, FEMA's rolled out public testing sites. Why not surge public testing sites 3 months ago in anticipation that there would be surges of variants?
Again, we're working with our states routinely, and we're hearing what their needs are, and we're basing our support to them on what they need. And so as they request additional assistance, that's when we come together and give them the assistance that they need.
Thank you, Administrator Criswell. Appreciate you coming. You're
Thank you,
always
Jen.
welcome and invited.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.